have failed and failed and refailed, over the years. I mean, ever since Iran, and the fact that they didn't know Iran was even collapsing. I mean, it just goes forward. And they have a role, they have a place. The CIA, the NSA, they try to stop things. But when you really look at their track record, I mean, they just can't. They can't manipulate something like that.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. Speaking of manipulating, and I look at the Koch brothers. One of them is dead, obviously, but Charles Koch has raised $78 million so far this year against Donald Trump. $78 million. Now, he's a billionaire. He could have just reached into his own pocket, but no, he's out there raising money because rich people don't want Trump.
Well, the Koch brothers have you looked into the Quincy Institute at all?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Well, Koch and Soros got together and have begun the funding for the Quincy Institute, and it's for peace, but it's very interesting. And Koch spent his money with Soros, considered the princes of darkness by both sides. Depends if you're a Republican or Democrat.
Yep.
They consider them those two, but they did that. But this, Super Political Action Committee raised $78 million, and that doesn't mean that Koch won't put some more of his own money into it. But I think he's smart in doing a super PAC and having other people buy into the super PAC because it makes support.
Right.
People feel invested. It's like in our campaign, we loved the $1. I mean, I had thousands of people contributing $1, $5. It's nice grassroots supports, but people do feel invested when they contribute, and even at this higher level, they feel like they're doing something. So I can see where he didn't just fund it himself. He's going to get more bang for his buck by including other people in it.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I don't like either. I know you said depending on which side you like one or the other. I don't like either. I don't think either should exist as billionaires.
Well,
I don't think we should have billionaires. I think we should have a tax code that discourages that kind of enormous wealth that someone can reach into their pockets and fund, the kind of things that Koch has funded over the years and that Soros has funded over the years. And I think that's a nonpartisan. That's a way to unite working people to go, yeah, you're probably right, Rick. We probably shouldn't have such enormous wealth where our lives are now basically the new polo for rich people.
Well, you're right. And when McCain-Feingold, put their bill together, and of course McCain became furious with me because I personally, the first round, stopped the bill. I said I'm not going to have a vote on it, and I told the members there was 5 Republicans and 3 Democrats. I said, if you want to blame it on me, go ahead. I told him privately, don't blame it too much. But if you want to say, hey, the chairman did this, and frankly, bipartisan, they loved saying that, well, he's not going to have a vote. Private conversations, I had 2 Democrats who came to me at the time, and they're still there, so I don't want to mention their names. It's not fair to them, but they came to me and they said, look, Soros is spending money against me. And these were Democrats that were not conservative Democrats. And for whatever reason, Soros was going after them. And, and they didn't like it. At that time, though, I tried to suggest that we took what they have, 50, I forget now, 507s they had, or
501c3s.
I forget what they put together. But at the time, I said if we were going to have to do McCain's bill, let's make absolute demanding full transparency from these people. Koch or Soros or whoever, these rich cats, they don't have to tell who they're getting money from. And you want to talk about business people, some of them that have conflicts of interest, they don't have to tell it. And that's just, any working person should hate that. You're right, no matter whose side of the aisle these people are on.
No, I mean, I've always said that, the fact that you have this kind of mass accumulation of wealth, and that it's like my grandmother always said, the devil's works in idle hands. Well, the devil's works in really loaded pockets. when people
Right.
have huge bank accounts and in the kind of power and influence to scare representatives into secretly going to the opposition and doing what you're saying they're doing. That's more power than I think one person
Sure.
should have.
Sure. I've always felt all of these groups should, I mean, I lost the battle, but all of them should have to tell, even including the big ethical groups that go after people, in the Congress and file ethics charges. Well, their group should have to tell where the money comes from.
No, I'm right there with
Everybody should.
Right there with you. Got to get some of your thoughts on the big House Oversight Committee hearing today. Evidently, Devin Archer is his name, a former business partner of Hunter Biden, claimed that Hunter was selling the illusion of access to his father. Didn't actually have there's no. Basically, this guy said there's no there.
Well, both sides claim victory today, but look, and I want to word this very cautiously because I got yelled at for trying to insinuate that if you have substance abuse, you're allowed to do whatever you want. So I'm going to word this cautiously. At some point in time, too, with substance use, your mind also does not function correctly. Okay, whether it's alcohol or drugs. And again, that I'm not excusing that it was, if anything was said, it was cool because, he had a substance abuse problem. But at some point in time, also, there's an issue there of, where was his thinking? I'm talking about Hunter Biden, on how to proceed with business and putting that issue aside. But I wanted to throw that out there. With this hearing, they're saying, and I think the most problematic conversation today by Devon Archer was when there was a conversation between Biden and his son. There were some business partners. He was on speakerphone. Everybody acknowledges that, but they didn't talk business. But supposedly it happened 20 times. So, I think that's where a son says, "Hey, Dad, give me a call," and Hunter thinks it's okay, and they didn't discuss business, but 20 phone calls, and I think at some point in time that could be made as a point by the Republicans. I don't think it's a silver bullet that was expected today. Let me,
heaven forbid a son calls his father, a father calls his son. Heaven forbid.
Right.
What kind of country are we when parents talk to their siblings?
Now, like anything, this will then simmer because today wasn't what was expected, unless, and if it's not a government investigator, then I don't know who would do it, but unless people start to come forward that were, part of this speakerphone thing and say, well, I felt, and if that happens, then it makes it not look good, not smell good, that's to be seen. But as far as what I was expecting today, was that there were business associates and business was discussed. I was expecting particularly maybe to hear that. Because Devon Archer, he's not like Cohen in the sense he didn't go down for a crime where he was involved with Hunter Biden. Cohen was involved with Donald Trump, so therefore some of the things he says, the lawyers can make it look suspect. But if Devon Archer had made some more, serious statements, it might have had more credibility than, a guy like Cohen. But that didn't happen today.
Well, again, as I said from the beginning, I don't know why we're spending so much time and energy on Hunter Biden. He is not an elected official. And until you can draw me that straight line, if there was a perfect phone call, because there've got to be recordings out there somewhere, that perfect phone call of Biden saying, yeah, I'll do this for you, which I know there probably is not. This is a giant nothing burger.
Well, but you know how the things run. I mean, if they find I'll do this for you, then it becomes bribery.
Yeah.
And then if that's not the case, then it becomes influence peddling. And in my particular case, I can't tell you how many times my name was invoked in places and the government would ask us about it. And I didn't do it. I didn't say it. Somebody, Oh, yeah. Well, I just was in his office yesterday, and they do those types of things. And it even went into the point of Haley Barbour and Jack Abramoff battling each other and throwing anti-Semitic comments back and forth here and there.
Wow.
And I had nothing to do with the two of them doing that, but that happens.
There's a name from the past.
Yeah, Haley Barbour.
Yeah, I forgot all about him, and now you've brought that back. Thanks for that. I got another question for you, because evidently Atlanta isn't about ready to be in lockdown mode. From what I've heard, barricades are being thrown up. And you've got the Fulton County District Attorney, this Fannie Willis, saying, "Hey, stay alert, make decisions that are going to keep your staff safe." It looks like potentially another indictment coming down.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this will be around the first week of August. Now, if not in indictment, but some announcements, and then indictments no later than they're speculating September. But I think the first week of August is going to reveal a lot. And I got that from a YouTube article today, where this is kind of interesting research. It's just like the news media would watch when pizza deliveries were made to the Pentagon, and if they were big pizza deliveries and the people weren't allowed to go out, that meant they were planning some war action. I mean, that's literally, reporters pay pizza guys to tell them when they're delivering. Well, this is kind of that case in the sense that they have, from the prosecutor's office, they have asked the judges to clear their dockets for around the first week of August, to clear their dockets. So that tells us that something's going down by the first week of August. And if not indictments, there's going to be something, in the sense of an announcement of pending situations that are coming. So, yeah, I fully expect that Rudy Giuliani is going to be indicted. And I do expect Trump will have indictments. We know the January 6th indictment's coming. But so it's big when they ask the court to clear the dockets.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think Trump is going to be indicted. Even he says he's going to be indicted. Even he thinks it's going to happen. But for me, it's what comes next. It's who the co-conspirators are. Will Lindsey Graham's name be thrown into this? Because if you remember, he made some calls into Georgia as well. What about the attorneys? What about that Lynn Wood, or what was the woman's name? I keep forgetting her name. The Kraken. Oh,
now you made me go on a blank on that one. Not Snide. No. Oh. Thought I'd never forget her name. She's way out there.
Yeah, I'm so glad I have forgotten it, but it'll come to me, or someone will remind me. But will they Will they be indicted?
I mean, you don't know. I mean, obviously they potentially could, but I say Giuliani because he has now admitted that he made false statements against some of the electioneering, individuals. He's said that already, which is kind of that's sort of a protection. If you know you're going to be indicted, well, yeah, I made some false statements. You kind of get it out there out front. Of course, the question is, will any of these people that are indicted, will they turn? That's the big question, because are there other things they can lead the prosecutors to? I mean, that's how this all runs. Been there, done it. So I know.
Wow, that's it's one of those things that just make you go, I can't believe we're in this moment at this time, given the fact that it's just remarkable of where we are, and the fact that what was the poll I just saw? 22% of Republicans don't care, no matter what he did.
Right.
22% don't care.
Right. And well, then the candidates are into problems, because you either attack him for it or you let him go. And if you let him go, you're finished. If you're attacking for it, you're finished. So either way, this call is in his hands. I said today, when I did radio down one of the southern stations today, he can be in shackles, in a khaki jumpsuit, and appear at the convention and win the convention. All right? That can happen. This all, I'm still arguing he's not going to do it. I'm still holding to that. But that's going to be in his hands and his decision. He's going to have to start using campaign money. And then if he thinks he's going to lose, that's where I think the ego kicks in and he, calls it a day at some point in time. That's what I think, could happen. But as far as the rejection of him, no. It's weakened a bit, but the support for him is still there. I don't care how many times he'll be indicted.
Yeah, in fact, it came out. Who was it? Someone was joking that it was Thomas Massey, the Republican from Kentucky, who I guess joked that DeSantis needs to get indicted. He's got to close the indictment gap. Which
right.
Look, with all the things I've heard coming out of Florida, wouldn't be a shock. Would not be surprising.
DeSantis has committed political suicide already. He's finished himself off.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness for that. But I got to see if Lindsey Graham gets it. Like you said, Rudy, I'm hoping Lynn would throw that name out in there. There's a bunch of them I would like to see, and maybe we will. But as always, Bob, I appreciate.
Rudy's on top of the pile there, though.
Oh yeah, he's on and shirtless and never mind. Appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Our good friend Bob Ney. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Do you think he's going to be indicted? Do you think it will happen this week? We'll find out. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back to wrap things up. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1981. That was the day the long Major League Baseball strike finally came to an end. The issue that motivated the strike was a dispute between players and management over free agency. Day after summer day slipped by on the calendar with no end in sight. As a result of the strike, a total of 713 games were canceled in the middle of the regular season. And on this day, players and owners reached a compromise, which ended the lengthy strike. In the settlement, a team that lost a free agent could be compensated by drawing from a pool of players. Players agreed to restrict free agency to those who had 6 or more years in the major leagues. Because of the long strike, the All-Star game was pushed all the way back until August 9th. When you go to the ballpark, you're likely not thinking about labor issues. Nonetheless, the players are unionized and had to fight hard to win free agency and other protections. There have been 8 work stoppages in Major League Baseball. 1981 held the record as the longest. Until 1994, that is. The strike started in August and resulted in the cancellation of the whole postseason. It was the first time a major sport had its postseason wiped out by a work stoppage. The strike was not settled until the following April. But the good news today is there are only balls and strikes on the field. So, play ball! Brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. So I want to finish up with an email from Jack from Wisconsin. Appreciate the email, Jack. And if you want to email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, that's how you do it. I do answer all emails personally or use them here on the little program. Jack writes, this is in regard to your first segment tonight, when Ronald Reagan came out with his "government isn't the answer, government is the problem" bull. He says, I think it was about 1981. About 2/3 of Americans were middle class. He says, I recall thinking at the time, our only protection against big government against big corporations is big government. Government big enough to regulate corporations and strong enough to enforce those regulations. Today, due to deregulation and egregious corporate greed, fewer than half of Americans are middle class. I'm glad that young people are beginning to realize that kind of greed is destroying the middle class and that those corporations need regulation to reverse that trend. It seems that our younger people are voting in ever increasing numbers. They may well save our country from losing the entire middle class. Jack. And look, I love the optimism. The young people are going to save us. I see all the union organizing, all the excitement around it. We're going to create a more just economy, a more just future. My problem is we old people are going to hang around way too long to be able to stop any of that excitement. And you've got politicians who are now saying we need to raise. Was it Vivek Ramaswamy saying we should raise the voting age to 25 or join the military? Because once they can get a hold of you, and they can shake you into and mold you how they want. I find it interesting. Now I don't use the word middle class very often, but I get what Jack is saying. We had a prosperous working class in 1981, and my grandparents were in the heart of that. The wages that they earned put them solidly in that middle class category that Jack talks about. In fact, most of the people that I knew were somewhere in that upper end. Most people were union members. When back, I think 80, we were still 25% unionized, maybe 26, somewhere in that range, to where, people were doing well. And what's happened over these years is our greed class, as Jack points out, been robbing us blind. So am I hoping the younger generation wakes up? Yeah, I'm sure hoping. But I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm hoping. I'm working. I'm pulling for them. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Miss any portion of the program? Make sure you grab the podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You'll find ours. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.